Guys, we're in a new episode of Me Podcast. This time, I'm with a guy that I ask him, many times, but he's always really, really busy. And finally, in the last couple weeks, maybe we've been in an event with him, and he already says, "Yes, okay, let's do it. Let's take the time and make this podcast." This time, I'm gonna introduce you to a nice friend of mine, Andres Montejo. He is a lawyer, is a notary. He give classes in the university, Costa Rican University. He's a lawyer, and really, he give me a list of things that you do. Man,
I'll let you
come
know.
on.
We'll tell them. We'll tell them.
Wow, he is really preparing this, and I'm going to introduce to Andres in one moment, and we're going to talk a little bit about the things he make, and I want you, Andres, to tell us what you do. He is from the company Esfera Legal here in Costa Rica. So, thank you, Andres. Thank you so
Rodrigo.
much for this
nice
little
to
time
be with
that you took
again.
today.
And finally, we did it. Yes, finally we did it. I'm happy that I'm busy.
Yeah,
that's important. If you're
I
not
agree.
busy, that could be a problem.
My mom says that if you're not busy, you're trying to invent things that you shouldn't, right?
Exactly. So I'll be happy to do this one. Of course, I'm happy doing this one and doing whatever you need. I'm happy. And just answering the first question, and I don't like to talk that much about me, but I'm a partner at Esfera Legal, which is one of the biggest law firms in Costa
Yes.
Rica. Actually, it's not only in Costa Rica, it's now we call it a global law firm because we have offices in different parts of the world, frankly. I mean, of course, a lot in Costa Rica, but we have also in Central America, in Spain, and we're opening some other offices. So I'm very proud of being part of this law firm. I have 35 years of experience as a lawyer, and from those 35, I've been teaching for 30. So it's part of in the law school, and the biggest law school in Costa Rica, which is in Spanish, Universidad de Costa Rica, or University of Costa Rica. So I began when I was 28, 28 years old. So I was getting into the class, and all the students there, and they were not going to go into the class because they thought it was another classmate just getting into the class, right? And it was the professor.
And then actually a little parenthesis in that what you just mentioned, that you were a teacher. That's actually really cool. And I'm going to explain you why. Usually with these kind of things, lawyers are really busy. So when they want to explain the client, they go really fast, they go to the point, and it's hard to understand. I mean, it's not what we do every day. So it's really good that you're a teacher too, and that's why I ask you to make this with us. So you can explain us really good a lot of things. Sorry, now you can go ahead.
No. Well, I'm just going to real quick finish, and we can go actually to that point. To exactly to that point, because usually your clients, the people that we work with, are foreigners, especially from the US and Canada, but some other countries as well. And even though certain things are the same thing, a lot of them are not, because it's a different law, right?
You're
so
right.
you need to explain, because very simple, is someone investing overseas. So hey, wait a minute, it's not my country. I should know how to do it. And so part of the idea is to explain, to teach the client exactly what they are doing, so they are going to feel much more comfortable. And from those 35 years of experience right now, probably the first 5 were just what I do, what any other attorney will do. Everything, whatever. We're just trying to learn, right? But I will say the last 30 years, I've been teaching at the school, not only teaching, by the way, what I teach is property law. So it's not that I'm teaching something else, property law. And I've been doing property law in the last 30 years. So I specialize in property law and a little bit about corporate law, which goes kind of
pretty
together.
close. Yeah.
But it's important to point also that I am a notary public. okay? And when you say notary public, people will say, like, what's the big deal with that? I mean, you're being a notary public, and it is a big deal. And if you don't mind, I want to explain a little bit about that.
No, actually, remember, this is one of my pretty close to one of my first questions.
Well, I'm a notary since also 35 years ago. It's so important because a real estate transaction, it's quite similar in Costa Rica or in the US or in Canada. But when there is a difference, there is a big difference. And one big difference is that in a real estate transaction in Costa Rica, and I will say in Latin America, not only in Costa Rica, but all Latin America. And when I'm saying Latin America, I'm talking about Latin countries, which includes Spain, France, Italy. Mm-hmm. So Latin countries, right? Latin American countries. We need notary publics. The notary changed a little bit from one country to the other and how it works.
That's what I heard.
Okay, yeah, so it's not the same in Panama or in Spain than in Costa Rica. But what's important is that the notary public is totally different from the US and Canada. And what's the main difference?
Yeah, what is? Okay. Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
Every time I'm in the US and I see what I'm going to tell you, I all the time take a picture. So you're going to understand. I'm going to begin with that. But let's say one day I was just walking downtown San Francisco, California. I'm just walking, I see at this corner, it says grocery store, flowers, notary public. You know, like,
yeah,
just like that,
yeah.
Okay? Grocery store, flowers, notary public. What does that mean? That probably the guy that owns that place is a notary public. Mm-hmm. Well, notary public in the US, in Canada, what they do is that they get a license to, I need to repeat the word, but to notarize a signature. In other words, I have this document here. I need to give this document to X that needs to show that I'm really the one signing. That's it. So I bring the document with me. I will sign in front of you. You're seeing that I'm signing, that it's me. And you notarize. You say, this is the signature, da, da, da. You put your seal, and you're a notary for a certain period of time that could be renewed, and that's it. And that is all.
You're witnessing the transaction.
No. Don't think about transactions. Think only about notarizing the signature of the person.
Oh, okay.
And I will say just in Spanish for you to get it also, autenticar la firma, notarize the signature, saying, yes, the one that is signing is Rico.
Okay, yeah.
The one that is signing is Andres, and I put a seal, and that's it. Being a U.S. notary or Canadian notary. Those notaries works like that just because the law comes from the common law, from England. Our law comes from what was called the continent. So it's called continental law, which is a little bit more formal. It comes really from the Roman Empire law since then. Okay? And the notary used to be a person, I'm talking centuries ago, used to be a person, a very formal person that is the one that is writing the contracts and allowing the people to do it. So if you go to that happened a little bit somehow during the Roman Empire, but if you go to the Middle Ages, it was a very important person because it was no one know how to read.
Yeah.
So it was okay. We're both gonna have this. I'm gonna sell this or whatever. You go to that notary that is gonna write it down, and give some sort of legality to the document. That's how it began, right? So nowadays, and when I'm saying nowadays, is last several years, right? 100 years or more. The notary in this kind of countries, Costa Rica, does not only notarize a signature, is the one that prepares several documentation in a legal way and authorize that documentation. So to be a notary public, you need to be a lawyer. Here and in all Latin countries, okay, in all of them, you need to be a lawyer. You need to be an attorney at law to begin with. Now, who could be a notary? Being, of course, an attorney depends on the law in each different country. So it's not the same in Costa Rica than in Spain. But in Costa Rica, that is where we're talking about, today you need to have a master's in notary law. So you first finish your career, now you're a lawyer, then you need to take a master's in that, and you need to practice at least 2 years before you can be a notary public. So bottom line, all notaries are attorneys, but not all attorneys are notaries. Because I could be an attorney, just litigate, I'm not interested in being a notary. Okay. So of course I'm a notary public, I'm a lawyer, and I practice property law, which is what the idea on this conversation.
And how we met too.
Yeah, exactly.
Why we met.
Now I need to add something else that also happens in the Latin countries, very different from the U.S. And I need to begin with the U.S. real quick, but in the United States, and when I'm saying United States, let me use U.S. It's very similar in Canada, very similar in some other countries in Europe. So, but in those countries, when you're going to buy a property, Mr. X is going to buy a property. Most likely, they're going to hire a lawyer that is going to represent the buyer. Some other is going to hire a lawyer also to represent the seller. But usually a title company is hired. Why a title company? Because the title company is going to do a research on the property, trying to find out liens, encumbrances, mortgages, from where the property comes, if there is a right of way. They're going to investigate that property. Okay, that's what they're going to do.
You know, that's actually one of the biggest questions that we have, many times. Like, we call it a freaking ass questions in our job, It's like, it Costa Rica have all that, Is that service available there? That's one of the things that they ask a lot. Now you're mentioning that. You're saying,
I need to answer the following. No, I'm talking about the United States right now.
Oh, okay, you're right.
I was just explaining the U.S. in order to explain Costa Rica. Answering your question, I need to explain a little bit more, but answering your question, we don't have it right now. We don't. We used to because of certain reasons that I'm going to tell you, but we don't have it because we don't need it. But I need to explain that in the U.S. you have this title companies. They investigate. They're going to give an insurance to the buyer, and then between the two lawyers and the closing and the title company, they're going to close. And it's going to be a 60 pages contract transferring one piece of property from A into B. So of course, let's say at the end of last century, in the 90s, we began to receive more and more and more foreigners coming to Costa Rica trying to do real estate. And that was the question. What about the title company?
Correct.
What does the notary need to do here? Nothing. It was very confusing for all of them. Very confusing. But in the other side, in the Costa Rican side, and let's just think for a minute, we're just Costa Ricans, we're not working with foreigners. The transaction, I'm talking in the past, of course, now it's been changing. But the normal transaction is, hey, I like your property. Yes, okay, let's study this and let's go to my attorney and we'll transfer and we sign a document and done deal. Okay. Now it's a little bit more complex. Complex because of all what we need to or we want to do. At the end of the day, it's a quite simple process. But I believe that the buyer needs to understand.
Me too.
Process,
I agree.
So there's one more thing that I want to add here, and it's what we call the public registry. Countries like the US, like Canada, you can find in the city hall of each city or information about the properties and the taxes that they paid, but that's it. Okay. In Costa Rica, and let's say from now on, when I say Costa Rica, just because maybe because I'm a professor, I need to be very clear, right? But from now on, when I say Costa Rica, just think that we have the same in the rest of countries in Latin America and
Okay.
some continental
Perfect.
countries. Okay, but in Costa Rica, then we need to have a public registry that begun for something very simple, and it was based in a law in Spain, and it's that it was not really registering the properties, not having a registry about the properties. You know what was more important? The mortgages. If I'm lending you money and I'm giving as collateral, as a guarantee, my property, how does the rest of the people will know that you owe me money and that I'm giving you my property in guarantee of paying this as collateral? So what it was most important was the mortgage, not the property. Now, how can you register mortgages if you don't have properties? And that's how that public registry began several years ago. And of course, at the very beginning, it was all handwriting, then with typewriters and so on. Now it's totally, it's pretty much all in the internet, even though we have a big building for the registry and all that. But why am I saying this? Because this country is very secure in the moment that we're going to purchase property. I still recommend to do a very good due diligence. Actually, right now I'm preparing a little course for attorneys about how to do a due diligence. But anyways, that's another story. It's important to do a due diligence, but since everything is registered at the public registry, not everything, but almost a lot of things are registered, you know the property, right? So all what you need to know is it's either who's the owner or the ID of the owner or the number, because each property is registered with a number, or the number of the property. That's all what you need to do. If you have that information, from there on you can do a lot of things, because you're going to get into the public registry, which now we can do it in the computers through internet.
Actually, that's actually, right? I have a story with that. The other day, one of my clients, they purchased a property, they go back to the US, and they came back, I don't know, maybe a couple years later, and they were really concerned, that I can't find my papers, I don't have this property. I'm like, no, I mean, you have the property. We can check it in the public registry. And they say, no, I don't know how to do it. Don't worry. And I remember they do it with their passport. So we check, with some numbers, we find it out and we print it for them in our office.
Now you have it.
And they were so happy,
Now
I got my property back.
Now I have the paper. Well, actually, when what I do a lot is that when a broker has a client, someone that wants to buy, I like to talk to them and give them a little class of the whole process. And actually, we can talk about the process of doing real estate in Costa Rica. But I give them all the steps.
Yep.
And at the end, I say, and you know what? All this is digital. So you're gonna receive a document, but it's digital. So don't wait for the paper. Even though we need at the very end, well, I'm just jumping from one topic to the other, but at the very end, we will need to ink sign certain documents that I'm going to explain, but all is digital. So yes, we have the public registry. But going back to the notaries and talking about the public registry is just because, very simple, is because no one could register something at the public registry but a notary public. So you need a notary public in a real estate transaction. You can have your attorney, the other party could have their attorney, you can have one broker here, one broker there, you can have some other people involved, engineers or inspectors, you name it. But you can get rid of them. You need a notary public of the Republic of Costa Rica who happens to be a lawyer. Okay, and that's why it is so important that you need to have, hopefully especially as buyer, if you are the buyer, you have your attorney, hopefully that attorney, it's also a notary public. If it is not, no problem, because the attorney will find a notary public. But what you need is that notary public.
And what about, this is a thing that we talk many times too, but what about a notary public, but a person who knows about real estate too? That's their areas, like as you said before, make transaction in Costa Rica is really simple, but I really find this out in a hard way. Sometimes not every public know about real estate. What can you tell me about that?
As any other country, we should have a process, and a real estate process. I believe that one of the problems that a lot of people face is that the lawyers does not teach. And I'm not saying that you need to be a professor to be a good lawyer. It's that you need to teach your client or your potential client on exactly what are they going to do. That's number one. And for doing that, you need to know the process, really know the process. But there are several attorneys that thinks that I'm an attorney or I'm a lawyer and I could be a notary and I could just do it. And yes, legally speaking, yes. But you know what they do? Hey, come here, sign. They don't explain.
Or read this and sign this.
Right. Or maybe I'm going to read it, sign. And they, the person that is buying does not understand what they're signing. They trust the real estate broker. They trust the attorney, whatever, but they don't get it. You need to teach in every step of that process. Since the very beginning, hopefully, when they're going around with the broker around looking for property, that is a perfect moment for an attorney that knows how to do things to, hey, Rigo, bring me your clients. I'll explain them. Because I know, for example, and I'm just using you as an example, I know that but they will feel very comfortable also if a lawyer sits down and say, this is the process. So it's also a combination, it's synergy between lawyers and brokers in favor of who? The buyer.
Of course.
The buyer.
Of course.
Okay? The problem is that there are several, you just said it, several lawyers that they don't know how to do it, but they could do it. Legally speaking, they could do it. It's just that they don't know how to do it and might get complicated when you have people. The other day, I had a problem with a lawyer because he's more a litigator and he was just fighting all the time. I was like, hey man.
Okay, that's actually a really cool story, what you were saying, because that happened to me a lot of times. We have a lawyer that I don't know why, but they want fight in the transaction, fight with the realtor, fight with the owner, fight. You say about litigating. Tell me that story.
Right, when we go to the university, we learn what? How to litigate. That's the main thing, right?
I see.
Of course, I will learn criminal law, I will learn civil law, and so on. But for what? Usually, the most, to fight. Fight with someone, right? Not to negotiate. That's why now we're trying to turn this the other way around and say, hey, it's not only and even living with litigators, it's not only about going to court. It's about trying to negotiate, to settle something when you're fighting. But the problem here is that when I get admitted into the bar association here in Costa Rica, it's called Colegio de Abogados. Okay, I get admitted. I could do what? I could litigate. I could create contracts. I could A, B, C, D, and I could do everything if I want. That's why I was telling you, first 5 years I was doing everything. Then I began to specialize in property law. So what happens is that some people think, when I'm saying people, it's attorneys think that it's easy. I will just make a real estate transaction and I make easy money. I don't need to go through court, 3 years,
Yeah.
But I'm really a litigator. My soul is a litigator. So
So you bring that
not
to the
a
business.
notary or not someone that will create a contract, right? So the other day, I was dealing with one of this kind of attorneys, and it's like, it's me, it's what I say. It's because that's the way you think when you're the defendant, for example, or you're the prosecutor. I mean, it's what I say, period. That does not happen in a real estate transaction.
I agree.
We need to look for how to move and be a deal maker and not a deal breaker. But if you're a litigator, I don't know why, but sometimes you just turn to a deal breaker. And everybody is fighting with whom? With the attorney.
Right.
Even his client.
Yes.
Even his client.
Yes.
So it was a very simple transaction. Very, very simple transaction. But this guy was all the time looking for the black dot in the big white sheet. I mean, no. I mean, please, let's move forward. Let's try to find out. And of course, I need to protect my client, but let's move forward. So, bottom line, once more, is when you're gonna do real estate in Costa Rica, you're gonna buy something in Costa Rica. Don't just go through internet to look for law firms, because that is.
That's how we begin. I understand what you.
Right.
I understand your point.
I will find. You know what? Which law firms are you going to find the very first part? Those that pay in order to boost your whatever you have in the internet. So Mr. X, the best law firm in Costa Rica, but they don't know how to do real estate, for example. So,
I agree.
So it's not that easy to find those lawyers that knows how to do real estate. You need to find deal makers that knows how to do real estate, that wants to do real estate. Protecting the buyer, yes. Sometimes we have pressure from different actors in the process.
The realtors, for example.
The realtors, exactly. I didn't want to say it, but yes. The realtors are those that begin saying, "Oh, we gotta close. Well, you're taking too long in the due diligence." But it's part of the game, right? And you enjoy that game.
Yeah,
but we can talk, and I fight with you at that moment and say, Rigo, take it easy. Don't bother me. I need to finish, blah, blah, blah. But after that, we just go and have a coffee together, right? That's the idea, right?
I think Andres know me. I'm a bugger. Absolutely, I agree. I go everywhere to bug everybody.
Right, but I mean, sometimes it takes some work that we need to do. But and that happened. I mean, it's a real estate transaction, but we all need to be happy.
Yeah.
You cannot have one actor, and look, we usually have one or two realtors, one or two attorneys, one buyer, one seller. So just there we have 6 different.
I know.
Without taking into consideration some others, as I said, inspectors and things like that. Those 6 gotta be happy. Gotta enjoy what they're doing. Protecting whatever they need to protect, buyer, seller, but they need to be happy. Because the buyer is so happy because I'm buying what I want.
Yes.
But you know what? The seller is happy.
Yeah.
I finally am selling what I want to sell. Right? And the brokers are happy. I'm going to make my commission.
Absolutely.
And the attorneys are happy. I'm going to make my legal fees. Everybody's happy. Why fighting? Why looking the black dot? I mean, we're going to find problems. In several transactions, we find certain things that we need to double check and stop and go slowly navigating that. But let's be a deal maker.
And actually, there is a question that I have for you now, and I would love you to answer me this. And it is the process. I want you to talk to me about the process. You say the process was easy. Okay, Andres, this is one of the other freaking ass questions that we have. Let me know about the process. How it is to purchase. I know we don't have the time for the whole class. I would love that. That you do that. But maybe in the future, with our clients, like we did before. We keep doing that. But now, can you tell us and try to make a resume of what we need to do? What is the process? What are the steps in order to buy in Costa Rica? Really important.
At the end of the day, it's easy, right? And it's simple if you have someone that knows how to do it. let me begin and do it quite fast, because I could, as you said, I could take 3 hours here talking about that. Okay. First, what I call pre-stage is obviously looking for the property, finding the property that you want, and offering. And maybe even signing up there a purchase and sale agreement or an offer and purchase and sale agreement. I'm thinking for foreigners, if we do it for Costa Ricans, the name is different, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So you find the property, you're okay, you make the realtor usually will make a study of the property, and we'll create different names, SPA, PSA, purchase and sale agreement, however you want to call it. The broker could do it, the real estate broker could do it, the realtor, or you can find an attorney that will create that SPA. That document for me is very important. And let me just add something, and I'm going to say this in Spanish. I know that some people are not going to understand, but just for everybody to understand also that, because we're in Costa Rica, certain things are done in the Costa Rican way. So I do it in English, and I call it SPA or PSA. But some others will call it opción de compra-venta, that will be an option to purchase agreement, or reciprocal promise for buying and selling. So all those are pretty much the same, okay? I'd rather that being done by an attorney, but some brokers will do it. But that's why I was calling pre, because this is where we get the green light in order to begin the process.
The process,
because
right.
now we have an offer that has been accepted. Now what's the next step? And I'm going to do it real fast.
You know, I'm going to say something with that. It's funny. You say that you'd rather to this agreement do the lawyers. And, you know, as an office, we do it too if you want to. But I never, of the properties that I buy, when I purchase, I never, you know, do or use one agreement that we do it. I always go to a lawyer. You know, when I'm buying, I always go to a lawyer and ask a lawyer, you know, do this for me. I feel much more comfortable. And I tell my clients, you know, I feel way more comfortable when you use the lawyer to do this agreement, you know, and you're signing and putting money there, you know,
the problem
is
that some attorneys will charge a lot of money for doing a very simple document. So what we have decided is we just have a standard amount, unless it's something too complicated. But, you know, for a normal purchase of a normal property, we have a standard amount, you pay that regardless of how many times we do it or whatever. And done deal. Anyways, that is already signed, so we begin the process. So we have the first stage. That first stage, we need to do basically the following. Number one, we need to go into an escrow company. If you want, I could explain that, but real quick, in Costa Rica, it's not the attorney, the one that has an escrow account. We have companies that are duly registered in the government, and something that is called SUGEF, that stands for General Superintendent for Financial Entities. And they are allowed to handle third parties' money. So all escrows goes there. So we need to open an escrow account. For example, in our law firm, we have an escrow company, so we provide those services as well. Okay? And there are some others, of course. So for that, you need to fill up a Know Your Customer form and proof source of funds. In order to do what? To send the earnest deposit, because usually there is a 10% earnest deposit that should be, in my opinion, refundable during the due diligence period. That's number one. So we need to create that escrow account, and send the earnest deposit. Number two, the due diligence, which I prefer no less than 21 days. 30 will be great. 45 would be super for us, the attorneys, because it all depends on what kind of due diligence you want to do. Is it a basic one, is it a regular one, or is it a premium one? What are you purchasing? It's not the same purchasing a lot, that a farm, that a house, that a condo, that a property at the beach. I mean, all are different. Different things that we need to check out. And not only check out, but we need to check it out. You know, we have a list, of course, but it's not only a checklist. It's not only I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. No, it's really review that. Because some things are very simple.
Something new can jump
you know,
too.
taxes, water, electricity, all that is simple. But you need to study the property, go over the history of the property. I mean, several things depending on, I repeat, in the kind of due diligence that you're going to do. And we need to send a report to that buyer. So we need to have enough time, because then the buyer needs to read it and have at least 1 or 2 days before the due diligence period is due in order to questions and accept that or not. That's why I all the time write in the purchase and sale agreement a paragraph that says that the earnest deposit is full refundable during the due diligence period for whatever reason. Okay. Let's say it's approved. We have the earnest deposit. Okay. We begin the second stage of the process. Now we can draft the deed, what we call the deed, the contract transferring. Okay. And that is done by the notary public. Now we come again to the notary public. That happens that your lawyer, buyer's lawyer, could be the notary public.
If not,
but it's the notary public, the ones that is gonna draft this. So we need to draft this in order to send it to the other party to be reviewed, okay? To be reviewed before we close. And here I want to point on something. All this that we're doing, the purchase and sale agreement, the due diligence, the escrow agreement, all that could be done in English. But the closing needs to be done in Spanish, because that's the legal language in Costa Rica, and it's done with a notary. We're going to get there. But in this second stage, we're doing the following. Number 1, drafting the deed. Number 2 is the moment for a buyer to take a decision if they want to buy under their family name, their name, or with a Costa Rican LLC, a limited liability company, which is a topic that we can discuss some other day. But there are several pros and cons between doing it in your name or in a Costa Rican LLC.
Just really quick, it's really hard to get an LLC? I mean, I know the answer, but just for everybody.
No. It takes, I mean, you need a notary though. It's not like in the US or Canada that you can do it online. No, you need a notary also, because that is also registered at the public registry. But once the notary has the information, it could take 2-3 days, and maybe 24 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, but I all the time prefer to say 72 hours.
Ready.
But that is the moment. Of course, in the first stage, we discuss a little bit about pros, cons, because in this second stage is the moment to create that LLC, which is the one that is going to be purchasing the property. If you're going to do it with an LLC, or if not, well, no. And then we need to finish all the monies, let me call it that way, all the monies for being able to purchase. In other words, we need to prepare a preliminary closing statement that will take into consideration the rest of the purchase price, the closing costs. So you have notary fees, transfer taxes, registry taxes, the due diligence fees, the VAT, which is the value-added tax for the services. You might want to have post-closing services, so we're going to include that there. If you created a company, we're going to include it there. And something very important, what we call proration. What's that? That there are certain things that needs to be paid. Like, I'm just going to give one example, property taxes or homeowners association fees in a condominium. That needs to be paid. So for example, in Costa Rica, you pay the property taxes quarterly. So let's say the seller already paid the first quarter. We are in the second quarter, and we close on May the 31st, just to say a date, okay? But the first quarter ended on March the 31st, so we have already 2 months at the date of closing that taxes need to be paid or have already been paid. But if had already been paid, it's for 1 quarter, so it's paid up to June the 30th. So now there is an amount in favor of the seller, but it could be the other way around.
Correct. Yes.
So if it is the other way around, then we have a negative amount that is going to be deducted from the proceeds from the purchase price. It's not going to go to the seller because we need to pay the taxes. See, that's the proration. So all that is prepared. We send it to the client approves that, Obviously, we can discuss what about this, what about that. It's approved. They sign it, usually DocuSign or one of digital sign, and we send this to the escrow company. And the escrow company is going to send buyer and seller the final closing statement. And I'm saying buyer and seller because the seller needs to send some money. The buyer is going to get some money, but the buyer in Costa Rica, usually the buyer is going to pay the brokers. Well, it needs to go from the proceeds and might need to pay taxes or whatever. It needs to go from the proceeds. So that's why we have two closing statements.
Okay.
So based on that, the seller will get a green light if they have complied with all what is needed for approving source of funds. It's going to receive a green light from escrow saying, okay, send the money. Of course, they have the wire instructions. They send the money. Usually takes, the worst case scenario that I've seen lately is 72 hours to get credited, sometimes the same day, 24 hours. And now it's in escrow. Money in escrow, due diligence approved, deed that has been drafted and approved by the other party, and we set day for closing. Okay, for closing. That closing, the only real person that needs to be there are buyer, seller, and the notary. Usually we have the attorneys, we have brokers. I mean, depends on how we do it. And by the way, now this is for the future, but it came to my mind. We need to talk also about what happened if the buyer could not be in Costa Rica.
No, that's actually a question that I have for you. I mean, it needs to be in Costa Rica?
Well, yes. The point is that then we finish this second stage, and now we get into the closing. The closing is a document about 6-7 pages in Spanish that is done by the notary public. The notary public is going to read that. It's very formal. It's going to read it in Spanish. If the notary public speaks the language of the parties, could translate that. And I give faith. For example, if you speak English, then I will do it in English, and it's in Spanish. I need to read it in Spanish, translate that into English, and I give faith that I've translated that, and I need to ask you, do you understand? Now, let's say it's someone else from another country, does not speak my language, Spanish, does not speak my second language, which is English. Okay, it's an Italian. Well, I would need to bring a translator to translate that document because it needs to be done in Spanish. But, and here's the big but, and people sometimes does not understand, that is very formal in a book that all notaries have, and it's ink sign. You need to have your pen and you need to sign. Okay?
It's not like you can do it in DocuSign or something like that.
That one you cannot do it in DocuSign. So if you could not be here, I will definitely recommend to have an LLC because the LLC could be created online and with the LLC I just send you proxies and we create a power of attorney here and we sign in behalf of the company.
Right.
Option two, you want to have it in your name, then you either first come down here because that needs to be done with a notary public of the Republic of Costa Rica, and you give a power of attorney to someone.
Yeah.
Or your notary, you fly your notary wherever you are at, and the notary, but it needs to be with the notary. Or in the worst case scenario, you go to the nearest Costa Rican consulate, which is a pain because it takes about 2 or 3 months to get an appointment. So I don't like that one, but it's complicated. So if you definitely cannot come, I'd rather have an LLC. And again, another topic, but you have pros and cons on that one. But bottom line is that deed, that in Spanish is called escritura, in case someone hears that word, escritura, needs to be signed by both buyer and seller and the notary. And now, congratulations, you're the owner at that moment.
Awesome, that's my question. Okay. Once you sign it, if everybody gets paid and all these things, is my property?
I'm going to explain that third stage that I call third stage.
Yeah, right.
But in that moment, yes, it's your property.
Okay, awesome.
So what does that mean? Because when you have a lot, it's not the same. But let's say you're buying a condo. Congratulations, and you get the keys. Here you have the keys, okay? From there on, you're responsible of that house. You need to insure that house. You need to pay taxes. You need to do everything as an owner.
Correct.
Okay? Now, what are you going to get in that moment? Because some people think, well, give me my title. Remember that we have a public registry. It's not that you get a title. So you're going to get a copy, a hard copy or a digital copy, however you buy or want it, of that document that you have just signed. So you know that you're the owner. Period. And the keys. Thank you very much. Go. But we have a third stage. And that third stage is done only by the notary and only by escrow. Escrow will disperse the funds. So we send them a digital copy of the deed that is already signed, approved, and with that they begin to disperse funds. That's why we have that closing statement. Because they need to know how much money goes to the broker, how much money goes to the attorney, how much money goes to the seller, and so on, because there is a lot of things that could be paid for taxes, for this, for that. And the escrow is going to make all the disbursements and prove the disbursements. Obviously, if it is in Costa Rica, it takes seconds to be done. If the money goes overseas, might take between 24 hours and 48 hours to get credited, because but that's out of our, I mean, it's something about banks. So escrow will do that, and the notary public will receive the notary fees, but also the amounts for transfer taxes and stamp taxes. So the notary needs to go pay that, prepare a document based on that document, and upload, and I need to say it that way because now it's digital, upload the deed into the public registry. And might take, I mean, sometimes it's just 2, 3, 4 days, but I like to say somewhere between 15 and 30 days to get registered.
Okay.
Normal, 10 days. But let's say 15 or 30, because sometimes there are mistakes. We need to fix this or that. The public registry is too busy. So getting registered, let's say 15 to 30 days.
And you can check it online and everything, right? Everywhere in the world.
Every single day, from wherever you're in the world. I mean, this is something that I would need to explain to the person that is going to do it, because it's in Spanish and that. But yes, since it's in a public registry, you can check your property every single day. I mean, every day. And you'll see, I mean, you can see the property in the name of the seller. Then you can see that there is what we call an annotation that says compraventa, purchase and sale agreement, that is in the process of being registered. And then suddenly when it's registered, then now in that same document, instead of saying purchase and sale agreement, it's going to be in your name. And all digital. And then now here, the notary, it's out. No more notary. Okay, we don't need a notary anymore. The property is now in your name at the public registry. Now we do something, that is, we send the same document now duly registered. Congratulations, it's now registered. And depends on the law firm, we do certain other things that, I don't want to go deep into that, but basically what you're going to get is the deed already registered. And I could even talk of a fourth stage. Okay?
What was that? What would be that?
What we call post-closing services. Post-closing services. What's that? Water, electricity, declaring the property at the city hall. Because it's not like in the States. In the States, I sell a property and just disconnect. Hey, please disconnect the water.
That's a good point.
And then I go and open it, and there's no water. So here comes the buyer, calls the company. My name is blah, 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 blah. Give the information that he's asked for. Suddenly he has water. That doesn't work that way in Costa Rica. The water still is going into the house. There's a meter. You need to continue paying that meter. And you can change the ownership of that meter, but only and only when the property is registered.
Yes.
Only when it's registered. So there is a period of time in which that buyer needs to continue paying water and electricity. I've been talking about water, but it's also electricity.
Or municipality taxes.
In the name, or the city hall, in the name of the former owner for a period of time. Once it's registered, that is kind of post-closing services that an attorney could provide, or a broker could provide, or a property manager could provide, or the buyer could do it by himself. It all depends on what they want to do. But bottom line, there are certain things that should be done by whoever after the property is recorded. Changing the ownership of water depends on which company it is. Changing the ownership of electricity depends on the company. If it is a house with internet and cable TV, well, doing the same thing or connecting the new one. And very important, going to the city hall and declare the new property as mine with the documentation.
I have something with that, with what Andres just said. Highly recommended. Ask Andres and his firm to do it for you, that fourth stage. Highly recommended. Costa Rica is pura vida. And that could mean that it can be a lot of time there being wasted. So definitely that stage I will rather
it's something that I will not recommend a new buyer, foreigner to do it. I will not recommend to do it because it's the cost. You just said it perfectly. It's the Costa Rican way. And it takes time. And the buyer, as you know, I work with foreigners all the time, and believe it or not, they haven't even signed a purchase and sale agreement. They haven't decided what to purchase. And I all the time tell them, you want to have a property here? You need to understand the culture. And I will say this happens in any other country, not only Costa Rica. Don't pretend to come here and bring your home country way of doing real estate or doing business. You need to love that culture and understand. So the pura vida means also take it easy, man. Take it easy. We're going to do it. Now, of course, choose the person to do it, because it could not be Mr. X doing certain things. Otherwise, they will never do it. But just choose the person, but take it easy. It's a process, which, as you can see, I've just said it in 10 minutes, probably, quite fast. I could go deeper in each stage, of course, but it's not that complicated. But bottom line, what do you really need? An attorney and a notary. That's what you really need. Obviously, I fully recommend to purchase property through a realtor, because they know the whole process. They know how to get the property. They know if it is a good property or no. They know about values. So don't do it without a realtor. But definitely, you need the notary public. No way of saying I don't want to do it with a notary public.
Well, I definitely hope that you get it clear, all the stages. Some other questions pop up, but I'm gonna let it for another video. But that's actually really nice, the way you explain us. Now, I have a couple more questions for you. Please
go ahead.
Don't go that far.
Go ahead.
Okay, Andres. At this moment, I have a special question for you. I was wondering how you finished being a lawyer. I mean, what was what happened in the little Andres that make him wanted to be a lawyer? What happened?
You can not imagine. It's kind of funny, but anyways, I'm the black sheep of the family. In other words, I'm the only attorney.
Really?
My father. He already passed. He was a civil engineer. My other brothers are all engineers, civil and mechanic, and here it comes Andres as the attorney. Why? Well, my father, as an engineer, he worked a lot developing communities, gated communities, and what we call urbanizations. And so he needed to, create the roads and the lots and da-da-da. But when you do that, the engineer has to do a lot with a legal part, which is, how do you have this big property here, legally speaking, and then you create this road, and this will be individual lots, and all that needs to be registered at the public registry. And besides that, selling and doing things, donate the roads to the municipality, for example, or several things that needs to be done into the legal part. Contracts that you need to do with for example, with the owner of the land. So contracts, and how are you going to develop that? And I was a small kid, and I don't know why, going a lot to my father's office, but it was not only going to the projects, was a lot at the office. And I was there just checking how he was reviewing and doing the contracts and da-da-da, and attorneys coming in and out, because he was the big guy in that construction company. And I really like it. I like to do this kind of things. And so I was growing a little bit and more, and I like it more, right? And the more I was seeing that.
How old were you?
Well, I began with that when I was really a little kid. I don't know, 8, 10 years. But when I was, 15, 16, I said to myself, okay, I don't like math. That's why I'm an attorney. I don't like math. I could not be an engineer. I like this kind of stuff. I don't like that much litigating, but it's not bad. I know. I don't know. I saw a lot of, movies and series about attorneys, and that's nice. Maybe not that. But it was more my father. But besides that, I have another little story here, and it's that my mother, when she was very young, she needed to work. There was no other way. She needed to go working. And she found a work at a governmental institution called the Public Registry.
Oh.
And she was assistant of the people that were registered. I'm talking when everything was handwriting and typewriters. So when I was about to go to law school, she didn't know, what do you want to study, So I was just thinking, because I love social sciences. So, communication or history or, politics, political sciences, any of those. I love all that. But I said, no, probably practicing would be nicest to be a lawyer than being, whatever. So, and my mom, of course, was not working anymore at the public registry, but when I was about 17, 18, I said, what are you going to study? And Mom, I've just decided I'm going to become a lawyer. I want to repeat something. To be a notary, you need to be a lawyer. Correct. So I just said, a lawyer. And she just began crying. She was crying. And when I'm telling you, I'm like, Mom, why are you crying? And the reason was very simple. She was working at the public registry. She was dealing every day with notaries. Why? Because now we do it through internet, but in that moment was you needed to go with the piece of paper. I'm coming here to record this, and so she knew a lot of notaries going back and forth, and she became, friend, and she was the one helping them. So she would have loved to be a notary.
I see.
And when I said, well, I'm going to be a lawyer, she was like, I am the one becoming
That's
a lawyer,
actually
right?
really cool.
Those are the two main reasons. Actually the main reason was my father. The other one is a nice story that, at the end of the day, both parents, they were all happy. Now I'm the attorney for my brothers. They call me for everything, and I gotta give them free advice. But no, that's just joking. But yeah, that's the way.
Oh, that's really cool. I know. How many years you have experience? Doing
35 years.
35.
Yes, I became an attorney when I was very young. I think I was 24 when I finished law school. So.
And in all these years, tell me please, at this moment we're stopping the classes now. I want you to tell me something about you, Andres. What do you have? Something weird or something creepy or something funny to happen to you? Can you tell us a couple of stories?
When I said that, in my first 5 years, I was doing everything. I told you that.
Yeah.
So when I mean everything is everything. I was litigating and doing this and doing that and whatever you can imagine, because I needed to make my name and growing, right? Yes. So, but we're back in the 80s, okay? So it's difficult to understand what I'm going to say. But I needed to look older because I was too young. And I was going, to courthouse and people were like,
the little kid,
Who are you?
Yeah.
Probably someone that is trying to say that he's an attorney. So I decided just to leave my mustache. So I was with a big mustache here, looking like older, right? So that was fun.
Well, that in the 80s was a fashion, right? Or something like that?
That's why I say 80s, because I was not going to leave my beard because you were not using that. It was the mustache, so with mustache. And I got married with a big mustache. Now, I don't know how, it was horrible. Now I could say it was horrible.
Now we need to find out some of those pictures with the big mustache. I'm
going to give you one.
Yeah.
I have a nice one. Yeah, I have a nice one in my first law firm office down in San Jose.
All right.
With a mustache. I'm gonna show you that one.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, but no, several things. I mean, I'm talking something nice, but also difficult things. One day, I was acting as notary, and there was this lady that was asking, she asked for a loan in a bank, and I was a notary for the bank. So the collateral was a property, so we needed to create a mortgage. So it was creating a mortgage. And well, I read the document to this lady that was with 2 or 3 kids. Kids, I meaning, she was, I don't know, probably in the 60s or 70s, and some of the couple of daughters and a son or whatever. And I was reading, and I was just looking like, she was not like doing something like this, right? And do you understand? Okay, you gotta sign like you did in your ID, because we need to check that it's done like in the ID. And she was not even able to take the pen, and she began to make something, and let's say her name was Mary, and she began to write something like, you name it, Christina, just to say something. And then I realized that she was having mental problems.
Oh, wow.
She was not capable.
Yeah.
And the kids were taking her for this mortgage. I don't know if you can see what they were trying to do.
Oh.
She was asking for the mortgage. The bank was going to lend the money.
Kids are gonna take it, leave it there. The bank have the problem.
And the bank would need to go and foreclose or do whatever with the property that they want. Of course, I needed to stop that immediately.
And can you imagine later on the bank when they say, when the bank
just imagine my responsibility.
Yeah,
my responsibility.
even if the kid wants to litigate that hey, my mom is not okay, you shouldn't take the house back or something like that.
That's so man. Now you can see how you need to pay a lot of attention. I'm gonna give you another one real quick. In the past, as I told you, everything was handwriting, right? So at the public registry was registered handwriting. And sometimes it was so difficult to understand what was written down there.
Like the doctors.
Super difficult. Now, at that moment that I'm telling this story, now it was with basic computers or electronic type machines. And here it comes again. I was a notary of a bank, and here comes someone that was asking for a loan, and he brings the document, his ID, and it says that he was divorced, okay, in the ID. So I prepared the document. I was supposed to read all the documentation from the public registry. I did. I read that, and but I really didn't pay attention. That's why, you know, the devil is in all details. That's what the devil is at.
Yeah.
And I didn't pay attention, and it was difficult to read. I could divorce that. Filed that into the public registry and came back with a mistake. Please explain why. Please explain if the person that is putting this mortgage is divorced or married, because he bought being married. And I'm going to tell what the problem is. If he buys, and he was selling also, he was selling and putting a mortgage. So if you buy married and then you get divorced, you got to split all the assets.
Yep.
So then if he's now divorced, then bring me the documentation that shows that this has been split and this property is his. And otherwise it's not going to be registered. I called the guy, said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying, so no. Then he said, well, I was kind of insisting. And then I said, well, talk with my lawyer. And here comes the lawyer. And you know, in the world you find all sort of people. And I explained the problem. I'm really in a deep problem. I mean, I could be my liability at that moment was
Right.
high. Well, I could lose my license. I could, for a stupid mistake, right? But could lose my license. I could. I'm liable money-wise, and in the civil part. And he said, no problem. I could solve this problem for you. Basically, what he says, give me X amount of money, and I'll convince the other guy. And I was, you know what? I'm not that kind of person.
Wow.
So I needed to continue insisting until I decided, well, there's nothing much that I could do until someone is going to go to court and sue me. Nothing more. I was so sad. I was almost depressed. And suddenly, an attorney knocked the door. Hi, my name is such and such. I'm here to help you. And he was able to convince the guy that, guess who? That property in that divorce, in the divorce sentence, went to two daughters. Two daughters. So actually it should have been in the name of the two daughters. Okay,
Wow.
so the two daughters came to me and they accepted that mortgage that was in a property owned by
Wow.
this guy,
Wow.
but in which in pure legality was owned by these two ladies, right? So
Yeah.
they signed a document accepting, and finally, the property and everything was duly registered, and the mortgage and everything. But maybe some people would not believe in what I'm going to say. But those are the angels that you find in your life. And I forgot his name. I don't know who he is. He just disappeared from my life. And he was the one helping me.
Well,
from heaven. I don't know, from whatever you believe, but that was an angel.
To that one, thank you very much. Andres, thank you so much, actually. We enjoyed a lot what we do today. What we did today.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely. Like I said before, I really like how this guy explained and the patience that he have, highly recommended. Now, Andres, before we go, how we found you or how we find your business. Tell us a little bit about that, please. And you're a teacher as well. Andres was showing us some website that he is creating to teach people and these things. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Okay, first of all, I love teaching. Maybe that's why I talk like this. I love teaching. It's just that I don't want to be a professor and only a professor. I love, that's something that you need to.
I agree with you.
You need to love what you do. So I love what I do. I love to be an author. I love to be an attorney. Especially, I love to work in real estate, real estate transactions. And so that's what I teach as well at the university. And actually, I'm only teaching that. I used to teach how to be an author, by the way, and some other stuff. But now I'm teaching just that. And I am part of one of the, for not saying the biggest one, and my partners will say the biggest, but one of the biggest law firms in Costa Rica, a global law firm. It's called Federal Legal, with offices in several parts of the world and several in Costa Rica. And one of the partners, and I'm in charge of one of the offices at the coast in Coco. I work in the whole country though, but I'm in charge of that specific office. And again, I love what I do. It's doing all this kind of real estate transactions. But I got it also into an age that I believe that you need to give to others.
I agree.
Because the more you give, the more you get. That is a natural law, believe it or not. The more you give, the more you get. So it's not about going and giving money to poor people. No, it's how you can give to someone else. And of course, as a professor in the university, you give a lot because you're very bad paid, by the way. But you give a lot. But if I've been teaching for 30 years, could you imagine how many generations of attorneys have passed through my class? Several. And some of them in the past year were asking me, well, but how could we get to where you are at. I mean, teaching, making money, why not? That's good in life. Being a good attorney, how can you do it? And then, I just decided to create a couple of programs, or 2 or 3 programs. The first one that was not precisely because of this question, but because of my clients, all foreigners, I created a YouTube channel called Law by Montejo, which is pretty much only kind of actually, I'm going to tell you what it is. It's a class that I'm giving to people that want to be a real estate agent on how to do real estate in Costa Rica. So doing real estate in Costa Rica. So we just decided to film that, and we have it in YouTube. It's old, but it's nice. People could just see it.
Oh, I get really good info. I saw definitely really good info.
I should just, redo it, but that is one. Then during COVID, that was another nice story. As professor, I was at home one day and they said, we're going to shut down the university for a week. That week was months, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Suddenly it was months. But you need to continue teaching. So it was, through all these platforms stuff that we have. And all the time, I learned when I began teaching years before, that when I prepare the class, then with that, I pretty much have an article that I might be able to publish. And so I've published a lot of articles. So when I began doing these classes, I said, well, you should record this because it might help for something. And I decided to record that, and then because we were in COVID doing nothing but that, so I learned how to edit videos and and said, why not? I'm going to create a channel, another one in Spanish. And that's how I created, in Spanish it's called Derecho con Profe Montejo, which if we translate that is difficult, but it's like law with Professor Montejo. And I was uploading all the classes, edited of course. So for the next generation, 2021, it was so simple. Hey, go to the class, and then when we get back, I'm going to answer questions. It's going to be more a kind of Socratic class, I don't know. And I've been teaching since then that way. Go to class, because we have just about real estate in Spanish, I have about 140 videos.
Wow.
But let me just finish, because you need to give, and all these attorneys were, not a lot of them, asking how to do it. I create these 2 programs that at the end is called, in Spanish, Abogados de Éxito, which will be successful attorneys. Trying to teach attorneys that you can do, tips here, tips there, and how to become successful. I put some of them for free in my channel. Of course, they are in Spanish. And now we're trying to specialize in certain topics that the attorneys are asking. And I'm happy doing it because, the more you give, the more you get. I'm right now in this position as an attorney. Why not helping the rest? Because if you make money, if you have success, I'll have it.
Absolutely.
So it's better just that everybody growing. And that was the idea of that.
I agree with you.
And I'm not going to keep you more here. I'm really enjoying this. And thank you very much
Andres,
for the invitation.
thank you actually for taking the time. And, we enjoy it a lot. Like I said before, when we, take a little breaks, we were talking a lot about things that happened to you, all the time that you took, not only today, but before, Andres, too, many times when I need to call you, when I need to ask you things, really appreciate it so much. I hope you guys appreciate it and love this episode too in the Me Podcast, and I hope to see you soon again.